Jujutsu Kaisen has become insanely popular. For the last 5 years, it's been either the highest-selling manga or at least never left the top 3 competition. The anime seasons both won countless Anime of the Year awards, and both the anime and manga get trending whenever something new is released. Even on Thursdays where the manga chapters get leaked before they are officially out. The success of Jujutsu Kaisen is simply insane. It is a huge internet phenomenon, with both discussions and content being pumped non-stop from it, and not to mention the strong presence in the overall internet and the memes culture. It is so popular that every now and then a celebrity or an athlete will reference it. Just recently, Itadori was featured in a cover on a DC comic. And over at Marvel, Miles Morales just did the Manji kick, which Yuji popularized back in Shibuya. The panel even makes a reference to Crunchyroll being the source of inspiration, aka Jujutsu Kaisen. Jujutsu Kaisen's success and impact on pop culture has been huge. Unlike other popular and successful shows, something about Jujutsu Kaisen makes it loved by most people who read it, and are pulled into engaging with it, whether they like it or not. So, who is the author behind Jujutsu Kaisen? Well, we all know it's Gege Akutami, but do we? Since Gege Akutami is not even his real name. It's just a pen name he gave randomly to be known as. We don't know how he looks, nor do we know his real name. All that everyone knows is that this guy is not the most sane person out there. And I don't say that lightly, and it's not because of his ideas or plot decisions, but more than that. We do not know a lot about him or his childhood anyways, but every once in a while he drops us a piece of the puzzle. For example, as a kid, he used to steal food, lie a lot, and break things in the house. And he always blamed the dog for it. In fact, he lied so much that one day he got hit by a car, but no one believed him. And to be honest, I don't know if I believe him either. If that's not enough for you, then how about that one time in 1999 where he won a game of Russian roulette with some complete strangers? Russian roulette, for those that don't know, involves risking your life by pulling the trigger on a gun that only contains one bullet. Except this game he played didn't involve a gun. It involved taking turns rubbing medication used for treating insect bites on their private regions. He said that the game attracted a lot of attention and he had to disappear for a while. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the guy we are dealing with today. So please sit back, perhaps even get you a healthy snack with some water, of course. And join me as we explore the mind and the works of this guy who clearly needs help. As I said, we pretty much don't know a lot about his early life, but let's go over the crumbs of info we know from his career and examine his earlier works to see what we can find. Akutami was born in 1992 in the Iwate prefecture. As a kid, he liked manga, of course, and he got the idea of becoming a manga artist from copying a classmate and friend. He loved Yu Yu Hakusho, Hunter x Hunter, and Bleach growing up. Those three became his biggest inspirations later on. Fast forward from that, he started his career in 2014, when he was only 22 as an assistant for the manga Kiss X Death, and he published his first one-shot that year. Gege published 4 one-shots before the start of Jujutsu Kaisen, one of which being Jujutsu 0. The first of those 4 was Kamishiro Sosa, and I will skip summarizing the plot for you to not waste time. Also, I highly recommend you read all of the one-shots, they are amazing. But let's highlight the points I found interesting for the style of the author, or even the early birth of some ideas that he explored later in Jujutsu Kaisen. In Kamishiro Sosa, we see Gege's sense of humor and nonchalant characterization as we know it, concepts of supernatural elements in the world that normal humans don't know about or even notice, and unique abilities that vary from person to person. Mainly this guy's weapon, which uses pots and lids the same way Hakari uses doors as an attack with Private Pure Love Train, and an earlier version of the Veil. This girl's weapon is constructing things out of nothing, including dolls, which reminds me a lot of Masamichi Yaga and Mai Zenin's techniques. The story is simple and fast, I really enjoyed it, and had a laugh here and there, accompanied with a really well set up and executed twist at the end. Overall, I found Kamishiro Sosa to be very well done for an inexperienced 22-year-old's first ever story. 1 year later, he published number 9, which feels like an alternative universe of Jujutsu Kaisen. It introduced a back and front world system that's just like cursed energy in many ways. Normal humans can't see it, and there are people like curse users who abuse this power. They don't just remind me of Prison Realm because of the back and front correlation, and also how they are used as storage for weapons, which reminds me a lot of Yuta's curse technique. One of the weapons is even a hand armament that enhances physical attack, just like Yuta's. But mainly how he opens these boxes using the word Fug, which, yes, is an early look at Sukuna's Fuga, which basically just means open for, the box. The black box technique from which he unleashes Kamina, the fire nuclear arrow. The similarities are all over the place, and they give us an early look at Akutami's scattered ideas that he featured in his magnum opus when the time came. Number 9 was first published on Shonen Jump, but it got very popular that Shueisha published it again on Weekly Shonen Jump, the magazine that all of the great shonen are published in. I really enjoyed number 9 and Kamishiro Sosa. They felt like standalone series in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen that I wish one day would get adapted into OVAs or special episodes. But we still got one more one-shot before getting into Jujutsu Kaisen itself, and that's Nikai Bongai Barabarajura. Aside from that name, this one has a pretty similar approach to the story, world, and combat. We get a look at what looks like Mahito's final form, Mahoraga, and Ultimate Mekamaru all mixed in one huge mech-like being. The characters here are a little deeper than before, and the overall pacing feels faster and fits the Gege Akutami vibe that we've gotten used to. This one-shot was not just popular enough with fans, it also got nominated for the Weekly Shonen Jump Gold Future Cup contest. And it's this one-shot that earned Gege a seat in Shueisha's Jump Giga for the publication of Tokyo Toritsu Jujutsu Koto Senmon Gakko, or as you might know it best, Jujutsu Kaisen 0. Just like the previous 3, this one was a self-contained short story, but instead of a one-shot format, we get a 4-chapter short run. The story of the cursed Okotsu Yuta, the spiteful Maki Zenin, the racist Suguru Geto, and of course the first appearance of the worldwide phenomena that is called Panda. And obviously it was a success. It was so successful that Weekly Shonen Jump offered Gege to make a series out of this specific world without bothering with creating a whole new one. They wanted this world, they saw the potential, and I don't blame them. Great looking out, editors, you really hit the jackpot with this one. But this for me highlights Gege's qualities as an author. Just think about the potential of how he created Jujutsu Kaisen out of nowhere after Jujutsu Kaisen Zero's success. This means that he might have been able to create a battle shonen manga from any of the other 3 concepts. Of course, there's no guarantee that they would have been as good or as popular, but the ability is there, and I'm definitely going to keep my watch on whatever work he does next. As much as a weirdo and insane guy he might be, I deem him a genius of the craft. And in case you still aren't sure why I'm constantly calling him insane and genius in the same sentence, let us take a look at some cases where he lets us in on his internal world, on his writing and thought process, and how he, the author, sees the story. From all the interviews I went over more than once, I realized that Gege thinks of his characters as some sort of chess pieces that he uses to move the story. And not in the basic way authors and screenwriters often say it. He does that literally. He actually does see the characters as chess pieces. For example, he thought Panda was just going to be a goofy and a funny character, but he was surprised of how smart he is and capable of advancing the story. So yeah, he comes up with a random concept and they gain life in the story and act outside of his control. I say that because he once noted that Nanami was supposed to lose one of his arms in his fight with Mahito, but Nanami turns out to be too cool and important for moving the story, and got out unscathed from that fight. Well, mostly at least. It's not like he explodes later on anyways, again with moving the story. But also how the characters grow beyond his plans. Not just that, but the shock when one of the characters exceeds his expectations as well. He said that Inumaki's popularity makes no sense for him. He just thought that including a character who speaks in rice balls ingredients would be funny. You're telling me that the original idea wasn't the amazing cursed speech technique, nor the Inumaki clan, or at least the character? It was the rice balls speech. As you can see, it is pretty much impossible to figure out this man's writing process because that's something he himself struggles with. I can confidently guess that since he forsake the idea of Nanami losing his hand, he just passed it on to Inumaki instead, and that's it. The title of the video is not a lie because Gege somehow hates his characters in a way we cannot understand. He clearly hates Yuji and said it a couple of times, and his hate for Gojo is not even a question. He literally said he was glad that he got sealed and that he doesn't like his personality and arrogance. Brother, you created him. Anyways, before I lose my composure, let us talk about his inspirations and how he was able to use their strengths to create his own formula and even correct their flaws and fix the problems within them. Things like characters explaining their abilities in Bleach, which is often boring and makes no sense, especially since that often makes such characters lose the fight anyways, since they went on a yapping session to explain everything about their powers. Gege found a way to ground his characters' explanations in the power system, and that's through a simple binding vow that makes explaining the technique more effective. And often characters like Naoya, Nobara, and Todo hide secrets about their powers in order to have the upper hand, which not only is more realistic but more advantageous for them in battle. Jujutsu Kaisen borrowed a lot of concepts from Hunter x Hunter and Yu Yu Hakusho, but sharpened them further, such as the whole concept of binding vows, which is inspired from Hunter x Hunter, along with technique restrictions, new shadow style simple domain, which is inspired from Nobunaga's En usage. Gege borrows like all good artists do, but he renovates and perfects things further by either tweaking them or grounding them deeper in his power system. Hunter x Hunter didn't just inspire parts of the power system, but even specific moments like Todo's epic moment in Shibuya and Netoru's last stand against Meruem. He also pretty much quoted him. Over at Yu Yu Hakusho, characters like Geto Suguru find their inspirations in the idea of domain expansions, which allows the user to trap someone in their world, subjugating them to their rules, is heavily inspired by Yu Yu Hakusho's territory abilities. In Yu Yu Hakusho, territories are abilities that allow people to trap their opponents in their territories, forcing them to fight on their terms. Failing to do so leads to major consequences. Since we're at it, Gege's all-time favorite manga is Taizo Mote King Saga, which I have never heard of, but upon reading some of it, I found this character that is a huge JoJo fan, and she just cosplays Jolin all the time, and I just freaking love it. Gege also said in interviews that he is heavily inspired by Naruto, One Piece, and Dragon Ball, in addition to the modern exorcist settings of Bleach and Yu Yu Hakusho, which just makes sense. He also credited Get Out, Hereditary, and found footage horror films for influencing Shigeke's style of horror, which I don't think is appreciated enough since people focus more on the combat and the plot. As many ways there are that I can approach it, I won't talk about the themes of the story or the world or the horrific things that some characters did. I am talking about the tone and the hints that the author sometimes gives us, like the first pages from volumes 1 to 6, which are just shots of some background that is unnerving for some reason or another, but they gain context in volumes 14 to 19, when they get a follow-up elaborating on that mini background story. Following these mini side stories was a delight over the years, and they worked really well to showcase the abnormal in the normality of this world, and how terrifying it is knowing that humans are essentially powerless against these forces, and how important sorcerers really are. This is a minor thing that Gege did, but I really admire the experimentation and the approach, which leads to a lot of messed up ideas executed really well for a shonen manga that has a lot of restriction. And this approach to applied horror instead of just straight scares is the horror that humans dread the most. And it peaks, often leading to panels like this one. Gege can write good horror if he wants to, and he can easily flip the whole thing with some of the goofiest things I've ever seen in my entire life. He is one of those authors that can genuinely combine two extremely different elements into a story without being forced and obvious. He can balance and include concepts like a talking panda, a dude who only speaks in ingredients of rice balls, ugliest face championship, a stand-up comedy fight in the climax of the manga, a cafe date setup before the most tragic and trauma-inducing arc, a baseball match, villains playing at a children's playground as they plot the destruction of the country and destabilizing the whole world. And he not only doesn't hesitate to include them, but perfectly nails all of these things. From serious to tragic and to goofy, Gege's ideas flow with life all over the manga. He does not hesitate. A French manga artist versus a gambling addict? Check. Let's give the gambling addict an underground illegal fight club. Let's reference Fight Club itself. Check. Make his gambling his power and make him overpowered. Check. His technique involves a manga, and an actual song plays out when he gains temporary immortality. Check. Make him dance like Michael Jackson as he fights. Check. Make him fight a reincarnated human Pikachu who came back from death just to fight strong people, who is even more insane than the gambling addict. Check. All of this happened within a few chapters, and that's just an example of the randomness of Gege's approach that simply works. Actually, it doesn't just work, no. A year after this fight, an AMV animator will make a video on the whole arc, and he made Hakari's implied dances come to life. That catches on to a new Brazilian funk song, and boom, it becomes an insane trend that overshadowed Gear 5, which was supposed to break the internet. It has gotten insanely popular that people who don't even watch anime know about it, and Russians and Brazilians can't stop making songs about it that get millions of views. How and why does this only happen to Jujutsu Kaisen? This insane cultural relevance and popularity, on a scale I am pretty sure is more than any other manga and anime at this point, unless we're talking like the big three. And even those haven't peaked as high as Jujutsu Kaisen in a couple of years. I have no answer to that. All I know and can tell you is that Gege Akutami is like us because he is one of us. He grew up with the shows that we grew up with. Unlike popular series from old, there isn't that much of a huge generational gap between us and the author. And modern authors simply stick too close to established formulas that they become basic at best or fall off gradually. Meanwhile, Gege, he doesn't give a shit. And that is what I love the most about this guy. He does not care. And that's good. Gege writes what he wants. He doesn't care what this long-ass video and other analysis pretend they can know where the story will go. He probably uses TikTok and his brain is rotted like all of us. He doesn't approach writing and drawing like sacred literature he has to learn and follow the guidelines of. He just writes and draws what he likes, and subsequently people like it too, because it's good. It has as much passion, hard work, and depth put to it like all else, but it comes to life because this is something only he can write. In no way does that, however, take anything from the true quality of Jujutsu Kaisen. The closest thing to perfect choreography, the amazing power system, the deep, complex, and vibrant cast of characters, or the concepts and thematic themes explored throughout the series. These aren't things I covered in this video because, well, I already did. There is a character analysis playlist linked down in the description and other videos about the series I've already done. and I'm currently working on more that will be out in the upcoming weeks. So subscribe so you don't miss them once they are ready. Gege inspires me like Yuto Suzuki does. Sakamoto Days has this level of doing whatever the author likes and enjoys, and that is a huge reason why I love it. And Kubo from Bleach, my favorite shonen manga, who has an even more twisted approach to storytelling and art. By the way, I already covered both of these, so you can check them out. I admire these people a lot, and I respect them. This concept of non-traditional storytelling is something I thank these 3 people for learning from, because I am writing my own world and stories that I put years of effort into and will turn into books. And you best believe Gege Akutami taught me a lot about this whole world of art and stories, and these are things I will hold dearly and will reflect in my own art. Anyways, Gege is a weird fucking guy. We can never understand him, and better we don't. What do you like the most about him or his story? Do you even like him? Like and subscribe, or Geto will call you a monkey in your sleep. You're welcome to support the channel through Patreon, which will help me live and make more and better videos. Drink a lot of water, cherish the present moment, and many thanks for watching.